So as I mentioned this morning, this is our 9th Swell. Some of you remember, there are a few people that were here for part of this, but the concept of Swell popped up in 2017, and it was the reaction to Swift wouldn't let us attend Sibos. Some people don't know, it's a true story. We couldn't get space, a booth at Sibos. And so we decided, this was in Toronto, and we decided, Sibos, the land of big banks, we were the disruptors, literally. So we went down the street, we hosted our own event, and admittedly, it was a little bit of a warehouse. It wasn't nearly what we have today, but it was anchored by speakers like Ben Bernanke. And I think very quickly, Swift regretted their decision because they created more of a monster by pushing us out. Well, 9 years later, the world looks profoundly different. Some of the biggest financial institutions in the world are here in this room with us, but it's not just them. We have the prime brokers, the application builders, the investment banks, the ETF issuers, as we just discussed, and everyone in between. Crypto and blockchain have moved from being taboo words to being part of the fabric of society. And let's be clear, you are all part of this movement. In fact, you all are this movement. So thank you. I am beyond grateful to have witnessed this fundamental shift in how the financial layer of the internet is changing and evolving. The work is nowhere near done, but if the conversations over the last 2 days have proven anything, it's that although we have come a very long way, we are all just getting started. I've said this before, but it is truly, and I say this somewhat humorously, an amazing time to be alive. We are witnessing the rewiring of financial infrastructure. We're witnessing enabling things that were simply not possible before. It truly is, I believe, the economic opportunity of a lifetime to enable and catalyze this rewiring. I'm extremely proud that Ripple has been leading from the front, both with lawsuits, but in a lot of other ways as well. So for over a decade, we've been leading with transparency, we've been leading with a compliance-first posture, and we've been leading with the goal of championing not just XRP, but the entire industry. I feel extremely lucky to have had the privilege of leading this company, and of course, an honor to be part of the larger XRP community. All right, so before I sign off and let everyone get snacks and drinks, one important public service announcement. I'm excited to share with you guys that our 10th Swell is gonna be a little bit different. As you guys know, the Swell has tended to cater towards the institutional audience. We've had separate events like Apex that is catered to developers. But we are excited to expand Swell to include not just financial institutions and payment providers or asset managers, but bring in the developers, bring in the investors, bring in the researchers, bring in the academics, and the broader XRP community who we've hosted at other events. This is going to be one single beacon event. Will be hosted by Ripple next year, back here in New York City, and we look forward to welcoming you all there next fall.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of your favorite crypto news related channel. And today is going to be a very exciting episode as we're going to go through many of the major announcements that took place over the past 48 hours at Swell. Now, what's most important to note is that companies like BlackRock, Fidelity, and the NASDAQ were very outspoken about the power of tokenization. And this is a narrative that's going to take about 1.5 years to play out. So for anybody out there who's like, how can BlackRock say they're tokenizing trillions, but we're looking at an asset class that's only a few $1 trillion. The majority of the liquidity is still on the sidelines, and we're going to be breaking that down for you guys later on today. Now, I did think this was pretty cool. Brad Garlinghouse inviting the XRP community to attend the 10th annual Ripple Swell. I will definitely be attending in 2026 as long as they don't block my application, guys. We already got 1,400 live listeners, 700 watching on YouTube. If you enjoy this content, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. You're going to get updates every day, 11 a.m. Eastern and 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. But let's dive into some of the content that I had prepared for today's show. I'm seeing a lot of bearish sentiment. I just don't feel very similar. I think the market is overreacting to some of this short-term price action. And I wanted to dive into the Bitcoin price chart because this is what's leading the momentum of the market today. Now, if you look at what Bitcoin's price has done since 2023, it has been consistent higher highs followed by a higher low. And this pattern is still in the process of playing out. Now, what a lot of people are anticipating is that we're heading into a bear market. But for us to really fall down here for the altcoins and Bitcoin, we're going to have to go below $92,000. So that's a price chart. That's a target that I'm going to be keeping an eye on over these next couple of weeks. A $92,000 Bitcoin, if we're able to sustain that, I'm anticipating more bullish momentum into the back end of the year. We also have a big announcement from Donald Trump coming this morning, guys. So I believe Trump was speaking at 11 a.m. It was a major announcement. If that occurred and it's in regards to a government shutdown, let me know in chat, because I think that kind of factors into many of the topics we're going to go throughout today. And I also wanted to show you a little XRP price chart just to kind of kick off today's episode. So remember, the momentum of the market is determined by Bitcoin, but there are independent factors that can move price charts in the short term. With the ETFs coming into the American markets and big companies letting us know this is happening in November, I've got an update from Max Avery I'm going to play probably right after this, where he gives a specific update from Ripple Swell, where he tells us word on the street is next Thursday, November 13th, XRP ETF products will be going live. And that starts with Canary Capital and Bitwise. Now, what's really great about this is that when Canary Capital initially launched their HBAR project, they were anticipating $50 million in a year. They broke that within a week. So if we see similar demand here for XRP and they're anticipating $2 billion, $3 billion, imagine what kind of inflows we could be looking at when all these products go live. But this is a clear illustration of what a bullish flag is and what a bearish flag is, right? You're getting some free TA here on Good Evening Crypto. And the reason that this is relevant for XRP investors is because when you look at the XRP price chart, this structure is so interesting. And I drew this point with Johnny Crypto a couple of days ago. I said, if you really look at the data and you look at how this market has been trending, it has just been one long consolidation since November of 2024. We broke out, we reached what I would call fair value for the short term. And from that point, we've really just been creating higher highs and higher lows. Now, what's interesting here too is that this looks like a double bottom, guys. If you're looking at the XRP price chart and you're seeing what I'm showing you, in early 2025, we had a wick down to about 160. Then we had another wick in the summer. I think it took us to about 195. We have not gone below that. We had this October anomaly, this mass liquidation event, but XRP didn't even close that daily candle below $2. So with a lot of the momentum I'm seeing, I'm surprised by how bearish a lot of the veterans are. Let me know some of your thoughts, chat. Do you agree? Are we going into a bull market? Is the bear market upon us? Not going into a bull market, but you know what I mean. With that being said, let's break down some of our topics. I'm just going to cover a very brief daily update on the price charts. Bitcoin trading at 100,000. We got Ethereum trading at 32.97. XRP holding $2.20. Solana's trading at 156. Cardano falling out of the top 10. It's very, very close. Just holding that 10th spot barely, trading at about 52 cents in value this morning. Now, we know at one point there was a huge differentiator between Cardano being the 10th largest market cap and Hyperliquid being the 11th largest market cap. That gap is slowly closing as Hyperliquid nearly 13 billion and Cardano under 20 billion at this point, down 13% on the 7-day. Wouldn't surprise me if we see some of these other projects, including Chainlink, climb into the top 10 at some point during this cycle. AVAX, Chainlink, these are the projects that I believe are still undervalued with a lot of the sentiment that we're seeing in the market today. But I wanted to kick off today's episode with another great video from Brad Garlinghouse, where he's describing the power of the XRP price, right? People are wondering, how can we have so much positive momentum, so many positive catalysts, so many major announcements playing out before our very eyes, but the price chart is still underperforming? Brad Garlinghouse kind of addressed it in this short video here. We're also going to dive into the Ripple and Mastercard RLUSD news. So I realized I did not announce it yet, but let me know some of your thoughts in chat. We're going to break this video down. Brad Garlinghouse yesterday at Ripple Swell.
I am, though, thrilled, and kind of back to one of the things I said earlier, having a fortress and a citadel. I mean, these are truly the leading financial players and architects of financial trading in the country. And so for them to come along with us as partners and allies, I think is a very big deal. And I'm thrilled. The corp dev team at Ripple has had a busy year.
What message does that send to Wall Street, to traditional finance, to crypto skeptics?
Get on board. We talked earlier today about the fact that there's still over 50% of the financial institutions in the United States have zero exposure to crypto. I mean, there's zero chance that that's going to be true a year from now. That number is going to continue to go down and down. And that is actually great news because that's tailwinds for the whole industry. Yes, that's tailwinds for Coinbase. That's tailwinds for Circle. But that's also tailwinds for Ripple. So happy about that.
All right, let's talk about XRP. How does XRP fit into your larger M&A strategy?
Well, XRP, and I sometimes have to remind the world of this, but XRP is at the heart and soul of what Ripple is doing. We care deeply. We have called it our North Star. But at the end of the day, we want to do things that are good for the XRP ecosystem. We want to build trust in XRP. We want to build utility in XRP. And we want to build liquidity in XRP. And each of the acquisitions we do, in one way or another, we believe it will do those things. Now, it may not be, some people may look at it and be like, I don't really, scratch their head a little bit. Well, I promise you that we see in the three-dimensional game of chess, we see how we believe that's going to evolve. Sometimes we'll probably do things that are more obvious and some less obvious. That's okay with us.
Right, there might be...
One of the advantages of being private is I don't always have to explain myself to public investors.
So that's another reason not to have the IPO anytime soon. But there are...
So that's another big topic of discussion, guys, was Ripple's potential IPO, and I've got a video update in regards to that. We do have 2,300 live listeners here. If you're excited, you enjoy this content, show us some love, smash that like button. And again, with a lot of these big content creators turning bearish, I'm not feeling the same way. It just doesn't feel like a bear market. And I was going through some of this data earlier today where I was looking at typical retail exposure at the peak of the market. What happens during the top of a bull run is that retail investors start flooding into the crypto market. We're talking about a 4 or 5x in the amount of people who buy crypto for the first time. We have not seen that yet in 2025. We haven't seen this euphoric moment where 4 or 5x the amount of people are onboarded into the crypto market. They buy the highs, then they get nervous in a bear market and sell the lows. We need that euphoric moment. We need that mass marketing campaign to get the millions of people who are willing to buy these assets into this asset class. That benefits the largest players. It also benefits the veteran investors like ourselves. And I think what Brad Garlinghouse is really getting at in this speech is that people haven't identified there is no divergence between the success of the XRP ledger and the success of Ripple's technology. If billions and billions of dollars are being processed through Ripple Tech or through the RLUSD stablecoin, and even 25 to 30% of that is now running on the XRP ledger, all of this has a compounding effect when we think about demand. And with a market cap that's only $180 billion, our listeners know, because I share this very consistently, that doesn't mean $180 billion came from outside of XRP and into this project. It means something more like $25 to $30 billion got in the order books and held this XRP. And now we're looking at a price target of $2.25. So when we see the quote unquote XRP candy store, like I explained prior, with the XRP ETF open up, they're going to be taking that XRP, putting it in long-term storage, and removing that from the circulating supply. Once again, reducing the amount of XRP that's available on open exchanges while increasing the demand and utility for this asset. It's the best of both worlds for XRP investors, but we have to be patient and we have to let this play out over a 6-12 month period. People are overemphasizing what this could mean in the short term. I do think that the XRP ETFs will have a positive impact on the price because that's just logical. More people buying the asset, more money entering the asset class. That means these assets become more valuable. But I am hyper aware of the fact that a lot of times these things underperform in the short term. And even if we see these major inflows, I think for the short term reality, the truth for XRP investors right now in this market is that the price action is really beholden to Bitcoin. We really need to see Bitcoin begin to outperform what it's been doing over these past 3 months. And that can happen in a matter of weeks. So with that said, let's listen to what Brad Garlinghouse has to say in regards to the XRP price and further elaborating on the success of Ripple products and how that coincides with XRP's success.
That this pace of M&A, this blistering pace, is papering over the fact that organic adoption of XRP hasn't fully lived up to its potential. How do you respond to that?
Like, I mean, on one hand, like I get it. And I would say, again, macro, one of the challenges for crypto at large is the number one use case is speculation. I mean, how many proven scaled use cases of crypto on any token or any blockchain can you point to? And unfortunately, I do think the industry has to live up to the promise of blockchain over the next 5 years, 10 years.
Do you think that'll still be the case in 5 years' time?
No. I was in Saudi Arabia last week on a panel at the IIF, and this was my FII. That was my primary point. That we are finally, partly because of regulatory clarity, you're seeing more entrepreneurs, more investors, and it's very analogous to what happened in the earliest days of the internet. The 1996 Telecom Deregulation Act provided clarity and structure so that entrepreneurs and investors could come into the internet space and did the money flow in, and the entrepreneurs flowed in. And yes, we saw a dot-com bubble. I think as we get more regulatory clarity, you're going to see more institutions, more capital, more entrepreneurs. Now, on XRP specifically, look, do I think that we have room to grow? Absolutely. But if you told me 3 years ago, you'd have literally, I think there's 100 different interesting startups going on in different aspects, some even competing with the Coinbase, on the consumer side. There's a ton of growth that's going on in the XRP ecosystem. Some of that Ripple has partnered with, some of that we have nothing to do with. And that is because I believe XRP is an extremely efficient blockchain. It's very fast, it's very inexpensive, and it's very scalable. We don't advocate that it's the right, one size fits all, that you should do everything on the XRP blockchain. There's other blockchains that are going to be better at different use cases, and that's great. But we think that we'll continue to champion XRP use cases we think are uniquely good on that blockchain.
One's in chat if you believe we are in a bull market. Two's in chat if you think the bear market has already started, because I want to hear what our community has to say. But I think what Brad is highlighting is that a lot of the value we're witnessing in the crypto market today is speculation on future use cases. And that's great for us because we're speculators as well. We're trying to predict that more companies are going to be using this tech. It really hasn't occurred yet. So the second that these companies actually begin using the technology, we're not speculating anymore. We're identifying demand. And that's what Brad highlighted with the use cases that Ripple is producing, whether it's through the Evernorth Treasury, the RLUSD stablecoin, the tokenization of real world assets, or just Ripple processing payments at a faster pace. All of this is creating more demand for the underlying asset XRP, and none of those real use cases have taken off inside the United States. Now, I am going to play these last couple of seconds here, but I wanted to play the Bitwise CEO stating that he believes that XRP will outpace Solana on this initial launch. Once again, here it is.
Sometime to come.
Do you think an XRP ETF would outperform the Swell one that we just spoke about?
I think it'll be a huge product. There's a ton of interest in XRP. My colleague Matt Hogan, our CIO, likes to say that the death of an ETF is apathy. And apathy is certainly not one of the elements of XRP. There's a lot of energy and interest and enthusiasm. So I think, there's $100+ trillion that live on traditional rails. And more of that is migrating on chain. But nevertheless, there's $100 trillion there. An ETF is often the first time that much of those assets can tap into exposure to an asset. And I think if they have the opportunity to have exposure to and trade XRP, it'll be a very useful and high demand product.
Very exciting, guys. And this is building on the breakdown that I'm going to give you right now from Max Avery, somebody who attended the Ripple Swell event. And he said there were two major updates coming out of Ripple Swell. Number one, XRP ETFs are set to go live 7 days from today. Let me say that again. 7 days from today, we could have a spot XRP ETF live and trading inside the American markets. Another thing our listeners should be aware of is that the demand for these ETFs is off the charts. It's far outpacing what we've seen with Solana. It's going to make things like HBAR look like a joke. And even if you look at the hybrid product for Rex Osprey, that hybrid product saw $40 million in day one demand. What do you think the demand is going to be for a huge company that's offering 100% spot XRP? It's going to be far beyond that. So these kind of updates are what get the XRP price chart moving. And for people who are like, when are we going to get a catalyst that actually has an impact on XRP? This could be that catalyst. But let's listen to what Max Avery had to say.
All right, so we've made it to the Hard Rock in Florida. We're here in Hollywood, Florida. It's right outside Miami. We got back from the Ripple Swell event in New York. Some of the biggest news I think that we're going to be seeing coming out of that is that the ETFs are going to probably be going live, at least a couple of them, just about 7 days from now. So sometime in the next week, we're going to see the race between Canary Capital and Bitwise come to a head. I think we're going to see some massive inflows for that. So the initial kind of estimate for what the annual inflows for the HBAR ETF were going to be for Canary's initial ETF launch was somewhere around $50 million by the end of the year. They hit that in day one. So they've actually exceeded that by about $15, $20 million at this point. And I think that we're going to continue seeing HBAR ramp up as time goes on with this. But what does that mean for XRP, who has a much larger, much stronger, much louder community? And especially as we're coming into the end of 2025 with people able to make allocations into their IRA accounts through their ETFs and everything else like that. So I think that there's a massive opportunity for huge net inflows as this continues to come on. So if Canary Capital can get theirs approved here in the next week, if Bitwise can get theirs approved in the next week, I think that's going to be significant. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit.
So you heard it right there, guys. Bitwise and Canary Capital could both have XRP ETFs live and trading inside the United States. Not next year, not next month, starting next week. And if you're excited about that, smash that like button. I want to give a huge thank you. We did already pass nearly 400 likes on the episode. I appreciate all the love and support we get on this channel. And I want to give a special shout out to all the brand new members who have joined this week. We are officially at 91 members of the Good Evening Crypto community. So I want to give a huge thank you to every single person who became a member. Somebody said, future flare prices. Big thank you for the $4.99. Very difficult to predict what the future value of Flare will be. Also, I'm not a huge holder in the Flare project, but what I would say is that I love what Flare has created with the compounding rewards, right? Getting paid out, using that Flare ecosystem to expand its user base. I think that's very valuable. With DeFi becoming more important, it's going to be worth more than it is today in a year from now. That would be my big prediction. That's about as far as I can go with that. 1970s legend with the $20 super sticker and a member of GEC's community. Big shout out and thank you to you, my friend. But once again, guys, with these products going live next week, we're going to track the inflows every single day here on Good Evening Crypto. And we're going to be able to identify how much demand is there really for the underlying asset here in XRP. Is it 5 billion? Is it 10 billion? Is it $100 million, right? Could it far underperform expectations? I'm doubting that, but it is a possibility. Let's close it out with these statements from Brad Garlinghouse, and then we'll dive into the Ripple and Mastercard news.
And it's because of that potential that we see that an ETF issuer said a spot XRP ETF will likely launch next week or shortly thereafter, even with the government currently shut down. We've seen that happen with the Solana spot ETF and the Litecoin spot ETF as well. What does having a spot XRP ETF mean for the coin specifically and for Ripple broadly?
Well, look, I think anytime you are seeing the kind of trust and institutional dynamic of an ETF, making it easier to access and bringing capital into the XRP ecosystem, that's good. It's not lost upon me, ETH as a token was kind of lagging the market in terms of the overall market activity in the spring. But then the ETH ETFs went live and ETH went on a tear. I don't think that's a big surprise. You saw people easier access coming in. I think the first ETH ETF, grew to $1 billion, very, very quickly. I can't remember the exact timeline, but I think you're going to see that happen in the XRP ecosystem because there's a lot of demand from people who don't have the skill set or interest in launching a Coinbase account or what have you, and they want to have exposure to this asset class. So I think it's overdue. It's frustrating that some of these things have taken so long, but I'm not yet saying it's going to happen next week. I know people on the panels have said it's happening next week. I've heard that said before, so I'm not going to count on it. But it's obviously very, very soon, and I think that's good for the industry.
There you have it, guys. That's Brad Garlinghouse statements on the impending XRP ETF inside the United States. And I wanted to actually address some of the bearish sentiment on XRP because, guys, bears are allowed to make their argument. It's our responsibility as the bulls to provide reason and logic as to why we're bullish. And this got a lot of attention. I want to give a big thank you, Old Man Krypto, brand new member of GEC. Thank you so much, my friend. But this got a lot of attention yesterday. I believe this is Laura Shin, and she published an article. Ripple just raised $500 million from a group of marquee investors. But here's how outside venture capitalists see this. The company Ripple is not worth anything outside of XRP holdings. No one uses their tech, no usage on the blockchain network or the ledger activity. So think about that. And I just realized, sorry, I meant to be loading that on the screen. Let me just get this updated for you guys. Now, I responded to this underneath earlier today because I think it's so valuable. We have to combat the bears with reason and logic as to why we're bullish, right? We're not bullish because we just believe in this arbitrarily because we're paid in XRP or something like that. We are bullish on this asset because of all the positive developments that we cover so consistently. And if this thing will ever load for me, I'm going to show you guys my response here because, again, I think I combated this fairly logically. And let's see if we got a response. So here's what I said. These debates, meaning nobody views Ripple as valuable or as a profitable company, they're outdated, right? When XRP was being persecuted by regulators, removed off exchanges, and trading under 50 cents, these held much more weight. It was reasonable to kind of fall for the negative sentiment. But with Ripple acquiring real companies, RLUSD reaching $1 billion in market cap, spot ETFs going live, and the Clarity Act unlocking American regulation, it's a new day. And it's not just a new day for XRP and for Ripple, it's a new day for crypto inside the United States. Donald Trump made the point once again yesterday, America will become the crypto capital of the world. And that, very refreshing after coming off 4 years of the Biden administration. This person, big thank you for the $10 donation. He said, LFG Abs, you're amazing, man. I've learned so much from you and the crew. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. This and the chat. Love you, man. Christ is king. God bless this chat. Absolutely. Shout out to you, the bad YouTuber, my friend. Appreciate the $10 donation. And once again, we got the best community in all of crypto. That's what we double down on very consistently here. And that's not because of me. It's not because of Johnny Crypto. It is because of the people who show up every day and participate. So big thank you guys if you enjoy this content. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. We got some great members here. Now, again, combating the negative sentiment. The company is not worth anything outside its XRP holdings. That doesn't make a lot of sense anymore. That argument doesn't even apply. Dom from Easy A App said, how can you say Ripple's not worth anything if it bought Hidden Road for $1 billion, G Treasury for $1 billion, and several other companies? She responded, the company owns $80 billion worth of XRP. So why is it being given a valuation of $40 billion? Here's what you can think, guys. Does Ripple own the escrow? Maybe Ripple's pre-allocated some of that escrow. Maybe some of these big companies who are showing up and involved in these big important chats are going to be allocated XRP directly from Ripple's escrow. David hinted at this, and I've covered that before. So Ripple is worth $40 billion, said this user. But wait a minute, you said the company isn't worth anything. Which is it? I didn't say that, but the venture capitalist did, responded Laura. But read the article. If the tokens are worth $80 billion at the current price, the company would maybe recoup $40 billion if it tried to sell all the XRP. So they marked the valuation down. The $40 billion is the valuation that they got. So again, what they're citing here is that Ripple couldn't offload $40 billion into the open market at the current price. Great. We believe the price is also going to continue to accumulate. So as the value of XRP continues to rise, the value of Ripple and the underlying company also rises in correlation. I don't know how this is difficult to even understand at this point. And maybe the quiet part that we're not allowed to say, maybe out loud here, but I will, is that do some of these people really even believe what they're writing here? I'm not entirely sure if this person even really believes what they're putting out there, because again, Ripple's sitting on 40 billion individual XRP tokens. They're saying they can't liquidate that right now and get $2.25 for the asset. So they cut that value in half. Well, what about if Ripple's value doubles because XRP goes from a $2 asset to a $4 asset? That's really possible, right? I think a lot of people in our live chat would also agree with that. They're using this in the wrong direction. I would use this in the right direction. Here's what I would say as well. If Circle can IPO and reach a valuation of $40 billion, then the company Ripple is worth well over 100 billion. I'm not talking 100 billion, 120 billion. This is a company that even right now, even with the lack of real world use cases being implemented, I believe this is still a $100 billion company at full valuation. And a big reason for that is the escrow, but also the technology stack, the acquisitions, the RLUSD stablecoin, and the relationship with the United States government. But let me know some of your thoughts, chat. One's if you believe XRP is undervalued. Two's if you believe XRP is overvalued. We did just pass 450 likes. Want to give a massive thank you, guys. If you could help us pass 500 likes on today's episode, that would be a great goal that we kind of reach and kick off. Now, today's 5:30 p.m. update, tune in for that, guys, because I do have to run. I got a busy day today, so I got to have a kind of a shorter live stream for you all. Tomorrow, I'll be back for the regular hour that we always do, or at least very close to it. But here's the breaking news I'm going to be breaking down on our 5:30 p.m. update. Ripple Swell made a major announcement. Ripple is collaborating with Mastercard, WeBank, and Gemini to introduce the RLUSD settlement on the XRP ledger for fiat credit card payments, starting with the Gemini XRP credit card. This initiative sets a new benchmark for institutional efficiency, enabling faster, compliant, and more transparent settlement within traditional finance. The future of payments is here. And it's like Brad Garlinghouse said, it's not coming. This moment has arrived. It is happening for the XRP community. The benefits here are outstanding. And I can't wait to do a longer breakdown on this. I don't want to kind of spoil some of the great content that I have. But when you think about what's really happening here, the more volume that comes on to the XRP ledger, the more valuable the XRP token is. So think about it this way, really simple analogy. The XRP ledger would be the highway. The RLUSD stablecoin would be a truck driving on that highway. The XRP token is used at the toll booth to get on the highway. Now, maybe it's only 25 cents. Maybe it's only $1, but people need to use that currency in order to use the highway. So if more transactions are taking place, even if they're using something different like an RLUSD, it's creating more demand for the XRP token and more demand to get on the highway that's being offered. So pretty exciting. I'm going to break that down in depth later on at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time today. But I want to give a massive thank you and shout out. We do have 4,000 live listeners, over 1,100 watching on YouTube. If you enjoyed this content, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. We did pass 530 likes. I want to give a big shout out and thank you. And I'm going to address the user poll. I've been forgetting to do that during today's episode, or oftentimes during this live stream. So let me just address the user poll very quickly. Today's question was, does XRP reach $10 before March of 2026? 80% said yes. 20% said no. That's out of 920 votes. Someone said, Abs, with yesterday's election results, will that have any effect on passing laws regarding crypto that Trump may try to pass? No. Nope. And you know what stinks? New York, been very tough on crypto investors. People know this. We even had people yesterday say, I just tried to do the uphold thing. I can't do it. New York is very difficult on digital assets. So sorry, guys. Sorry for the New Yorkers. Luckily, I'm up here in Boston. I don't want to say too much here. This is a crypto-related podcast. But somebody said, Terry Anderson, the best owl in the crypto community right there. He said, thank you, Abs, the best chat and show. Massive thank you to you for the $20 donation, my friend. I just want to give a special shout out to KG. The pillars of the Good Evening Crypto community, you guys know who you are. Once again, we appreciate your consistency and your support on this channel. But with that being said, we love you guys. We appreciate you all. We'll be back in about 6 hours to give you an XRP update with Mastercard, and we'll see you in the next one.
You're going to be so proud of your president, and I don't care about that. But you are going to be so proud of your country because we're going to turn it around and we're going to start winning again. We're going to win so much. We're going to win at every level. We're going to win economically. We're going to win with the economy. We're going to win with military. We're going to win with healthcare and for our veterans. We're going to win with every single facet. We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. See, the bottom line is,
well, you don't know much about crypto. You know nothing about nothing. You fake news.
But the challenge, as you know well, is the U.S. has had this very hostile. The Biden administration has been waging a war on crypto, and I think an unlawful war. Courts have agreed with us on that. And we're finally seeing that kind of unlocked in a Trump embraced crypto and crypto embraced Trump. And I think we're seeing that reflect in kind of how the markets have reacted since the election.
So